Okay, good morning. First of all, thank you very much for the fantastic invitation to this incredible event. Thanks, Nicoletta. You made it happen. I will talk about transformative innovation in the way that we understand it at CERN. But first, some disclosure. So I always speak from experience, so not from books or theory, in the different contacts with innovation that I had in my life, and lessons that I learned, some of them in the hard way, about how innovation happens. And well, this could be totally useless for you. So having said that, why do we need, and I mean humankind, transformative innovation? Well, of course, we all remember the pandemics and how a single event collapsed the entire world. It was an event that was growing exponentially, unfortunately, by the number of people that died, collapse on the health systems, and so on. Plenty of the consequences we are still yet to see. But remember, that was just one event, which is nothing compared to what we are facing for real. Climate change and the direct and indirect consequences of it. Climate change is, for sure, the biggest challenge that we have faced as humankind in the existence of our species on planet Earth, because it threatens our own survival. And one of the consequences, and this crazy mantra of unlimited economic growth, is that now we are using 1.7 Earths to keep our life standards. And in 2050, this will be 3. And the math, if we continue business as usual, doesn't add up. And we have only one planet. I encourage you to check some of the videos in YouTube that talk about how it would be living in another planet of our solar system. For example, the so-called Mars. With the technology that we have today, and most probably with the technology that we will have in the next, I would say, 4 decades or 5 decades, we will last 2 hours in Mars. We will die out of radiation, unbreathable atmosphere. So when you see planet Earth, you see the only home that we have, despite of crazy dreams of somebody. And we are destroying it. And that is why we need transformative innovation, because innovation, business as usual, will not take us anywhere. So just to define what I'm talking about, this is how I define transformative innovation. Is that one that changes paradigms and generates high social wealth and impact. I don't talk here about breakthrough or radical innovation. I don't talk about incremental innovation. I talk of that innovation that draws a line in humankind history before and after. And there are not so many of it, contrary to what the people might think. This is my personal list. I don't think there's more than this. Maybe a couple of examples. Just consider that innovation that changes the paradigms radically, and you draw a sharp line between before and after. Fire. When we domesticated fire, we were able to eat more meat, That made our brains to grow because burned meat could be taken anywhere. It doesn't get rotten. And due to the growth of our brains, we became Homo sapiens. Agriculture, the wheel, printing machine popularized knowledge. Knowledge was not just exclusive of monasteries or nobility. And with knowledge came innovation, the steam engine, etc., etc. And then I put at the bottom AI with a question mark there. We can discuss a lot, but there's two things that, in my opinion, are happening now. First of all, that I always say that I'm not afraid of AI. What I'm afraid is human stupidity. And second is that we don't have AI. And the more humble we are in that respect, the better. But this is a personal opinion. I think we have interesting parrots, but not AI. We are far away from AI for many reasons that we can discuss. So how this transformative innovation starts? It starts with a way of thinking that is different from if-then. I mean, we have survived since we were in the caves, not because we thought if-then, which is what they teach us in all the schools, the logical thinking. If I see a big cat, I run away from it and climb up on a tree. Now, what happens if I don't see the big cat? Well, thanks to this, we developed a different way of thinking, that is the what if. Because you don't invent fire, or you don't discover fire thinking if then, because you don't know that smashing two pebbles generates a spark. This is something that you know afterwards. You invent fire because you think, what if I smash two stones? So transformative innovation starts with a sentence like, wouldn't it be fun to imagine that we do this? This is the Atlas experiment at the CERN Large Hadron Collider. You have here some guys, so you can see the size of it. Just as an additional idea, the Notre Dame Cathedral will fit inside the Atlas experiment. So how do you think that the building of this experiment starts? Is there an Atlas CEO that one day wakes up and says, I have a dream. Build the Atlas experiment and follow what I'm telling you? No. The Atlas experiment happens bottom up. It starts in a physics conference when there is enough booze running and a bunch of physicists and engineers, they're sitting around a table, and one of them says, wouldn't it be fun to detect the Higgs boson? And then more booze and more ideas and more interactions. But it's bottom up. And bottom up projects are way more exciting than top down projects because you own the project. Is what I call the diamond effect. Imagine that I am walking on the street and I find a rock. And I say, well, that's a kind of interesting rock. And I decide to take it, and rather than putting it in a drawer just for my own pleasure, I put it here. And then I leave it there. And somebody else, you, come and say, oh, that's an interesting rock. But maybe if I polish this side, it's going to be even more interesting. And then you leave, and then somebody else comes and does the same. And after a lot of iterations, you have a diamond there. And who is the owner of the diamond? It doesn't matter. It's everybody, because everybody wins. So this is what I also call the Apollo effect. I'm pretty sure that if you went to the States in 1967, 68, and you took a cab in any city, and you asked the cab driver, so what are you Americans are up to? This guy will say, we are going to the moon. We, me included. Because the greatness of transformative innovation is that everybody owns it and is part of it. Again, and it happens with, wouldn't it be fun? What if? Because, as I mentioned, only what if allows us to invent or domesticate fire. If you keep on thinking always if then, because it is a logical way of thinking, you will end up thinking the same as everybody else. You will arrive to the same solutions as everybody else, and you will end up doing incremental innovation, a sort of me too thing. Because when you think what if, you dare. And these are just some examples in the world of science, which is my world, of people that thought, what if? And then changed completely our knowledge. Let's take, for example, Leonardo. Plenty of his designs, they have been replicated by engineers. And the majority of them, they don't work. But it doesn't matter, because Leonardo's notebook is a monument to the what if. I mean, how on earth a guy could imagine a helicopter like this one picture here in his time? Or Galileo. What if means that you challenge the status quo. Aristotle said that objects fall faster when they are heavier. And this mantra remained for 3,000 years because nobody dared to challenge the master until Galileo arrived and dared to challenge, what if this is not really true? And it started the scientific method. So why industrial innovation is rarely transformative? Well, because if you are a good manager and you're a director of research or boss or whatever it is, believe me, I have worked in industry many, many years, tells you, please start a project. Then you know that you start an A and should end up at B. And then you present the yellow line to your boss. And then your boss taps you in the back and said, well done, Johnny. But could you use these incredible and expensive tools of risk analysis that we spend millions in the company, and then you arrive to A prime, and then your boss congratulates you, and then allows you to start the project. But in reality, this is what happens. This is the true pathway of innovation, where you go up, down, backwards in time, and I mark there the final moments in which your project will be killed by your boss. Because when somebody tells me that works in innovation management, then I tell, oh, congratulations, you work in something that doesn't exist. Because innovation management is an oxymoron. And why? Because innovation is a process that is open-ended, risky, and nobody guarantees any success if you do it. It's a bet, it's a trust that you have to take. While management is a series of processes that have been designed for control, key performance indicators, and so on and so forth. So the more breakthrough or transformative innovation you want to do, the less management that you need, and vice versa. I will skip this one. The innovation that is taught in business schools versus the innovation for real. This is, the upper part is the innovation taught in business schools. I give lectures in 2 of them, but I don't give this type of lectures. We like to linearize the process of innovation because it sells books. It sells books that you can buy in the airport. We want everybody to be an entrepreneur, and because of this linearization and romanticization of innovation and how it happens, then a lot of young people think, because of us, that today you have the idea in a Post-it, and tomorrow you are a trillionaire. But this is what happens at the bottom. So to finish, let me summarize how do we understand innovation at CERN and why it's transformative. It is composed of 3 pillars in philosophy, the philosophy of innovation. First of all is anticipation. To build something like the Large Hadron Collider takes 15 to 20 years. If we build the next one, and we do it with how the technology looks today, by the time that we switch it on, it's obsolete. So that's why we have to anticipate how the technology will look like in 20 years' time. And how do we do it? Well, we collaborate with hundreds of institutes all over the world, here in Slovakia, of course, as well. And we boost these ideas that are on the tables of the labs until the level that we can use. The second one is what I call order of magnitude thinking. In 2012, when we discovered the Higgs boson, it means that we can perfectly describe the universe 10 to the minus 12 seconds after the Big Bang. 10 to the minus 12 seconds. 1 divided by 1 and 12 zeros of a second. And as cool as this looks like, it's nothing compared to where we want to go. Because we want to go to 10 to the minus 43 seconds. This is the limits of the laws of physics as we know today. 1 divided by 1 and 43 zeros. This is the Big Bang. So if you do the math, 43 minus 12 is 31. So CERN mission is a mission of 31 orders of magnitude. It's not a mission of 20%, 40%, 50%. If you go to CERN and you say, my technology is 80% better than what exists today, we just don't care. Because 80% in a mission of 31 orders of magnitude is nothing. We cared when you say, my technology is 100% better, because 100% is 2 orders of magnitude. And that might allow us to go to 10 to the minus 12 seconds to 10 to the minus 14. It's 2 orders of magnitude less, and maybe new physics is there. And the last one, and my last slide, is the third pillar, that is challenging assumptions. When you challenge assumptions, when you challenge what everybody thinks that is the mantra, that is the thing to do, that is the common sense, and if you are lucky, and if you work hard, you might innovate. And this innovation is going to transform the world, because your starting point is to challenge an assumption. And that has happened many times at CERN. The most known is the invention of the World Wide Web. I finish with this. So let's suppose you are on the 80s, and you ask any guru, like the pseudo-gurus that we see here today. I won't cite names, but you all know who they are. And you would have asked a guru in the 80s, if A has to communicate with B, A and B being machines, humans, whatever, what is the mantra? What is the assumption? What must happen because it must happen? Any of these guys would have told you, A, if it's starting the conversation, we'll need to choose whether to be the sender or the receiver of the message. That's it. But Tim Berners-Lee and Robert Cailliau, when they were at CERN, they said, why this has to be a mantra? What if A could be at the same time the sender and the receiver of information? And this is what is the web. And that's why we have social networks, e-commerce, e-banking, Zoom, because you are the sender and the receiver of information simultaneously. So thanks a lot, and any questions?
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Pablo Garcia Tello, let's give it up for him. Actually, I do have one question. I would love to follow up on what you said about the World Wide Web. What other experiments or discoveries do you find groundbreaking that have been actually made in CERN?
Well, many of them. I mean, one of them occurred a couple of months ago, that in the beginning of the universe, in what is called the quark-gluon plasma, there was the same amount of matter than antimatter. But where is the antimatter today? The only antimatter of the universe is the one that we create artificially. Mm-hmm. But when you put matter and antimatter together, they collapse and they form light. But we are not light, we are human beings. We are made of matter. So somewhere in the beginning of the universe, this symmetry was broke, and a couple of months ago is the first time that we have observed. But we have discoveries that have led to advances in technology. I mean, the web is just one, but the cloud was invented at CERN. The only thing is that we call it the grid, and it was done in order to share all the data of the collision globally. For example, all the advances on cancer treatment with proton or hadron therapy, and so on. So.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the presentation and answering the question. Ladies and gentlemen, head of the EU office at CERN, Dr. Pablo Garcia Tello. Let's give it up for him one more time. Thank you. Thank you so much.